All right, good evening, everyone. It is now 6:30, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 15th. If you could all please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Bentley, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Tuckfield.
Here.
Mr. Provenzano.
Mr. Provenzano called me earlier in the week, and he's not going to be able to make it tonight.
Okay.
So he's got an excused absence.
Absent and excused. Mr. Shudo. Here. Mr. Spatafora.
Here.
Mr. Oliver.
Here.
And Mr. Bentley.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed, I'd like to exclude Member Provenzano from any and all roll call votes.
Okay. My motion to exclude Mr. Provenzano,
Support.
supported by Mr. Tuckfield. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, approval of previous meeting minutes from June 1st, 2021. Is there any discussion? Anybody?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no discussion, I make a motion to approve the, did you have discussion?
I do have some questions.
Then I will withhold the motion
Okay.
until Mr. Bentley's done.
So my questions I had sent forward for the new organization of the minutes. Does it matter if the order of the votes that were taken are random as called in the meeting, or if they're recorded as all the same? So that's my question. It used to be critical that we randomly ask for the votes and record as such, and now they're all the same.
So you're saying that the order in which roll was taken, is that what you're saying?
The roll was recorded in the minutes
Okay.
as being all the same order, and it was not the order that the votes were taken.
Right.
So is that the way the new minutes are to be prepared, or are they supposed to in fact be in the order of which the votes were called?
Well, I think, I mean, you're asking me from my legal perspective. My legal perspective is that these minutes would be accurate because it lists all the people that are saying aye. I don't believe that there's anything wrong with that in terms of the legal enforceability of it. I'm not the one organizing the minutes. I don't know why they're listing it that way. It's probably based on the new software that they're using in order to organize it. But I will tell you from a legal perspective, I don't believe that is something that would be contested in the court of law in terms of the order that it's listed here as to the ayes. Because if you were to look at the recording, all those people did say aye. If it was a nay and the person said aye, then you'd have some issues. But I think you're covered there. But I can certainly find out from administration why it's being listed this way.
My concern was only that it would not record that the names were read randomly. Because I was told that was important, that the names be
Listed in the order that they voted? Is that what you're saying?
well, more random, so you don't get the same, so-and-so voted this way, I'm right after them, I'm gonna vote the way, that there was some concern about making sure that the order was random.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did not personally set up the system, but I could find out why they did. And I know that Tim Tomlinson was involved because this started at the board level, and they organized that with administration. I can certainly check with him if he sees anything, but I don't, given someone who's litigated both sides of the issues, I just don't see that being an issue
Okay.
in the court of law. I mean, if someone raised it, it's such a, because the people did in fact vote in that fashion, it's really not inaccurate. It is accurately, that it just simply lists the people that said aye. So.
Okay. My second concern was for any public hearing, and we had public hearing last meeting. The comments that were made by the public were not summarized in the minutes, and wondered if that also was dropped in the new preparation of meeting minutes.
That's a good question. I wasn't aware of that, but I could find out
Okay.
what the process is and report back.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Spatafora?
Well, to follow up Mr. Bentley, and this is also maybe for you, Mr. Aloya, if you could look into it, not only are public hearing comments no longer seemingly included, but also maybe commissioner comments, discussion are not in these minutes, which to me are maybe more of a glorified synopsis of the results that were taken. I know if I'm a petitioner for certain items going back, I would like to, read what the actual minutes are, which, could prepare for a subsequent action or meeting like this. And this just basically tells me what the votes were and what the actions were taken, who voted, who did not. Or,
Sure.
Like that.
Yeah, the key is to follow the statute and make sure you have the requirements listed in the statute. And my understanding is they were followed. They are followed the statute. I also know that, being a practitioner for over 20 years, we didn't have the benefit of video that we have now. And so many times now the minutes are very minimal. You find that in municipalities, because we have the benefit of video, which memorializes really those comments, that is also utilized and submitted to court. Like, for instance, if I don't represent anybody against Macomb Township anymore, but when I do in other jurisdictions, I actually submit a transcript of the hearing to the court on an appeal. And that is actually the best evidence that you could have, because the transcript actually goes through everything nuanced. And so you have the minutes with the transcript, and that's what most practitioners are really doing now, or you could submit the video to the court. So I think that's really where we're at. I mean, I'll look at the statute before the next meeting. I'll talk to really administration and Mr. Tomlinson to find out what their theories were behind this new format, and we'll report back.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Hardy, just a brief follow-up to Mr. Loy. I'd be interested in as well. We've had a lot of discussion over the years over what should go into the minutes. It's gone back and forth with planning. We've had a lot of discussion with the clerk's office. There's been different ways to going about it. I'm not sure that I have an opinion on which way is best, but new people in planning, new people in legal, just as a general thing, if I can have some of your opinions on it as well, even for the ZBA, I think that'll be helpful as a overall.
And just keep in mind, we're trying to implement a uniform process of minutes throughout for from the Board of Trustees to planning to ZBA and such. So it seems that we're going to follow whatever suit is outlined through the board and so on.
Understood. Makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, with those comments, does anybody have an motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay. Mr. Oliver made the motion to approve the previous meeting minutes. Anybody second?
I did.
Mr. Shudo did. I just did have a brief discussion on this, Mr. Hardy.
Go ahead, Mr. Tuckfield.
Are we okay voting on this if we potentially don't have public comment from the public hearing? Is that something we can go back and amend if you feel when you look into it? I think Mr. Bentley was indicating we don't have all the public comment noted in here for the public hearing.
Yeah, as I indicated, this form follows statute, so I don't think there's an issue in improving these minutes. I think the question that I hear is that should we have discussion in there? If that's something that the planning commission prefers, then we can discuss it with the administration. But I don't see any legal issue approving these minutes as they're written.
Okay, very good. I hadn't followed that from the first. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I had.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, seconded by Mr. Shudo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, next item on the agenda. Approval of tonight's agenda. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, Mr. Shudo?
Question on the motion in, Mr. Chair, Mr.
ahead, sir.
Chairman, in our packet, I noticed in the underlying documents that the petitioner's representative requested a postponement until September. I don't know if there was any follow-up correspondence to that, or if the petitioner in fact is here tonight to formally request a postponement on the record, but I just wanted it noted that the petitioner did request a postponement in the packets that were sent to us.
Gotcha. Okay. Motion by Mr. Shudo. Do I have a second?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Tuckfield. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, first item that I believe what you're referring to, Mr. Spatafora, rezoning request 0814-200-023. Rezoning request for agricultural AG to commercial, general C2, located on the southwest corner of North Avenue and 24 Mile Road. Section 14, Stephen Briney, petitioner. Mr. Skirdo.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Staff did meet with the planning representative for Mr. Briney. We talked over the situation about the rezoning, the state of the, the current master plan is in process, and they did submit a written request to postpone this hearing and postpone this item till September of 2021.
So what you're asking for is a motion to postpone
Yes,
until September.
September.
Okay.
We have specific dates for the meetings, September, if you prefer that, or if you just want to do September.
If you have a date, well, we should maybe include that.
The two dates the planning commission are meeting in September are September 7th and September 21st.
Okay. Is it, we'll leave it to your discretion probably would be best,
Okay.
right? Because you'll meet with the petitioner
Yeah, we always meet with petitioners
and
ahead
then
of time.
decide from there when they're gonna be ready.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion to postpone the rezoning request? 0814-200-023.
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and make that motion as
Okay.
per our planning consultant's comments and recommendation, postpone to a date in September.
Okay. Seconded? Anybody?
I'll second it, but I got one quick question.
Absolutely, Mr. Oliver.
Was there any residents that come here tonight and wanted to hear on it?
Oh, did we need to open this up to the public
No,
with a postponement?
no.
Okay.
We'll cover that in September.
I'll make that
All right,
motion.
Mr. Spatafora made the motion, Mr. Oliver seconded.
Yep.
Let's call the roll, Mr. Bentley.
All right, Mr. Spatafora,
Yes?
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Shudo,
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, yes. Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mr. Tuckfield.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Final plan, Mistwood Estates Site Condominium, permanent parcel 0824-201-018, located on the south side of 23 Mile Road, 3/4 of a mile east of North Avenue, Section 24, Greg Icabelli, petitioner. Mr. Skirdo.
Yes, the applicant is in front of you for final site plan approval of a subdivision, as you mentioned, on the south side, 23 mile east of North Avenue. Ms. Kalnicy has a small PowerPoint show that's behind you that she'd like to present as part of it to give you some background materials. I believe Mr. Icabelli is here in the audience to speak on his petitioner's behalf. So we'd like to turn it over right now and let the planning commission do
Okay.
what it needs to do.
Sounds good.
Thanks. So commissioners, as you know, this request is for final plan approval for the Mistwood Estates site condo development. As Dave has mentioned, it's located on the south side of 23 Mile Road, just north of North Avenue. The single-family residential development is planned to be developed within 2 phases. The first phase will be containing 76 homes, and the second will be containing 58. Access is going to be provided through a 60-foot wide public right-of-way from 23 Mile Road to the north. Based on our departmental reviews, staff does recommend final plan approval conditioned upon all departmental comments being met. Outstanding planning items have been addressed adequately. The only outstanding item would be pertaining to engineering comments. The first one is above you. Proposed topsoil, seed, and mulch areas around wetlands and the Bowman Drain must be clearly defined and labeled on landscape plans. And second is to remove the shading and matching note in the legend that indicates a future phase 2, as you can see in the graphic on the right side of your screen.
That's it? Okay. Mr. Skirdo, there was a resubmittal, I believe. And just for the community's sake, what was the purpose of the resubmittal?
I believe we went through a couple of iterations where we had an original, as typical process for the departments is we have comments, we send them out to the applicant's engineer to take a look at our comments, and you usually resubmit
All right,
to address staff comments. So we try to take care of everything to meet ordinance prior to coming in front of you.
gotcha. Thank you, sir. Petitioner, come on up to the podium. Please state your name and address.
Greg Iacobelli, 51435 Industrial Drive, Macomb Township, Michigan. I'm the petitioner for the proposed development and here to answer any questions.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for our petitioner?
I had two.
Okay, Mr. Bentley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two issues, and maybe I'm not looking at the latest, but in accordance with the layout, it shows that 23 Mile Road at that entrance is only 2-lane. Right now, it's 4-lane, I believe, and wondered how that affects your entrance and the amenities around it.
That might be an older drawing. The latest engineering drawings show the 5-lane road. They show 23 Mile Road expanded. We started approvals before 23 Mile Road was widened, but that's all been addressed, and the latest drawings should show that as a 5-lane road.
Okay.
But as far as right-of-ways and setbacks, none of that would change. The right-of-way was dedicated years ago. So the subdivision will start inside the proposed right-of-way.
Right. The other question I had in the material that we were given, it was unclear as to whether or not this is for Phase 1 or Phase 1 and 2. And as related to some of the questions, I'd like to know what is before us at this point.
We've got 2 phases drawn. We believe we're gonna end up developing it all as one phase because of the storm sewer, the detention basin being on the south end of the development. The pipes gotta get run all the way back to the north end. So it's, and there's pretty big pipes. We got 48-inch storm sewer, and we got a stretch of 54-inch storm sewer. So all the crossings with the water mains is in the sanitary sewers. It's gonna be, we basically have to do all the underground work to get Phase 1 in. So at that point, the only thing you're saving is paving. So we're posting a bond for the whole development as if we're moving forward to develop all 134 lots.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So on those 2 points, I guess, may I ask the
Absolutely.
Planning Department, on those 2, they have submitted then drawings that show the 4 lanes for 23, and we have record of that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we have them in the engineering, folders on the network.
The network's divided between engineering drawings and the planning drawings. And They should be on the engineers network.
All right, I thought they'd be on the planning as well. And then phases 1 and 2, is that an issue?
No,
Okay,
no.
that's all the questions I have, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bentley.
I got a question.
Mr. Oliver?
Thank you. Mr. Iacobelli, I know you're doing a little work there now. When do you actually think you're gonna start with your underground and so forth?
We're hoping to have a pre-con within a couple of weeks. I believe we'll be in front of the board next week if we get approval tonight, and then probably within a week after that, we'll get approvals. And then it's gonna be, everybody knows materials are almost impossible to get, but I believe we've got everything that we need. Our concrete pipe, all our storm sewer pipes already built at Northern, and Aetna's, all the water main supplies and sanitary supplies. They've said we might be short some fittings. Actual pipe they've got allocated for us. It's just gonna be a matter of chasing down some fittings. But yeah, we plan on going right away.
Good. Thank you. That's all.
Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if this would be, it's Mr. Skirdo and Melissa, my apologies, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name.
Oh.
I'm not sure who this would be directed best to, but lots 93 and 94 look like they might edge close to our 1-to-3 ratio. Is that something you guys looked into? Are we sure those are okay? They'll be in phase 2, down by the, I guess down by the water or down by the drain there.
That's usually something that we do review to make sure that all of the lots meet the dimensional requirements in the 1-to-3 ratio, in addition to the setbacks and other requirements for dimensions too.
So it's not something you specifically have a dimension in front of you, but it would have been something you checked, so we're assuming it's okay. All right. Very good, and just to Mr. Iacobelli, I know you developed in the township before, but obviously we have a width to depth ratio, so I'm
Yes.
assuming it meets it, but if it doesn't, hopefully we'll have that fixed prior to maybe a variance requested for it or something like that.
Exactly. I'm sure Dan probably would have reviewed that at assessing as with the original drawings.
It's usually caught. I haven't had it happen once, but I had it happen once like 7 or 8 years ago, and I remember it. I ask this question almost every subdivision review. They kind of get tired of it. So very good. That was all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Just to follow up, which lots were those?
93 and 94. I suppose 95 might be too, but
And you're okay with 117 and
did you have the
18?
dimension there?
118
Said 117.
and 18, and that's a
That typically would not. Oh, yes, because of the way those pie-shaped lots are, those should be good because it's between the. I always forget exactly how it works, but it's not the deepest portion. It's the average depth between the two legs, and those look okay just by my eye to it. Doesn't look like it would exceed a 1-to-3.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? At this time, I'd like to make a motion, or see if anybody would like to make a motion to open it to the public.
So moved.
Mr. Oliver made the motion. Support. Supported by Mr. Shudo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the public portion will start now at 6:52. Is there anyone that would like to talk about this item on our agenda tonight? Do we have anybody online? Okay. Any of you folks here would like to come up and talk, or no? No? Okay. Then we will close the public portion with a motion at 6:53. Who would like to make that motion? Mr. Bentley made the motion,
Support.
supported by Mr. Tuckfield. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Do we have a motion for the item? Mr. Spatafora.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further discussion, I move that we recommend final plan approval for Mistwood Estates site condominium, permanent parcel 0820201-018, per the comments from our planning department and discussion as presented.
Okay. Mr. Spatafora made the motion,
Support.
seconded by Mr. Oliver. Mr. Bentley, please call the roll.
Mr. Spatafora?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, yes. Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Tuckfield?
Yes.
Mr. Shudo?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Dave, would I be able to get a copy of that from Becky in the morning so we can make that revision?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Next item, planned unit development, general design plan, permanent parcel, I better get my glasses for this, 0836353, 033, 0836353, 023, 0836353, 030, and 0836353, 353018, located on the north side of Hall Road and east of North Avenue, Section 36, Carl Zimmerman petitioner. Mr. Skirdo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hardy. We have another PowerPoint show. I can go through the background and some of the process items, but I think the PowerPoint show has graphics that better describe what's going on. I'll narrate as Ms. Calnesy proceeds through them. You can see that on the overview, you have that's the property outlined in yellow, Hall Roads at your south end. The two buildings on the south side of the proposed PUD are the Dairy Queen and a new shopping center. There's insurance salesman near North Avenue and Hall Road. It's a subdivision is actually facing another street to the north. The site does contain 4 parcels, 3 of them zoned as C1 local commercial and 1 as O1 office low rise. The applicant has turned in a conceptual conceptual design plan that was adopted and approved by the Planning Commission and Township Board. I believe it was mid-June 2020. That property showed, I want to get some drawings. Can you go another one? Yeah, there you go. Thank you. That one shows, you can see, there's a, these are all conceptual at this point. It's a 2-story restaurant located near North Avenue. That's in kind of lighter brown color. That's phase 2. Phase 1B and phase 1A are in green. That would be the first parts. Phase 1A is a detention basin. Phase 1B is a car wash. Phase 2 again is a restaurant. Is also a expansion of the parking lot, of the lot to be developed as a parking lot to help out with some of the parking from the restaurant as well as the other uses on site. Phase 3, which is to the far east in kind of an orangish color, that is new vehicle storage for the Matic dealership. And then phase 4, which is down the road, is a automobile detail center. Can you go back now? I want to go back. Let me go back to the general design plan. Right now, we're in step 2. Step 1, as you saw, you had a concept plan review. It was approved at the June 16th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting and taken to the Township Board after. Step 2 is where we're at right now. We are looking at 2 components of step 2. The first one is a PUD general design review. What that is, that gets in a little more detail than the concept plan review. We start looking at gross areas to make sure there's enough parking. We make sure the access works well. Detention basins are approximately the right size. Some landscaping, the green belts, walls, all those major elements are in place. So they can go to the next step, which is site plan. A second part of step 2 is there is a developer agreement that's got to be considered by the Planning Commission and then sent on a recommendation to the Township Board. Both the general design plan has in your packet. Also, there is a development agreement, the original in your packet. I believe I'm gonna, at some point during the presentation, we'll turn it over to Mr. Aloya to talk about that, because there has been some notes and some changes that have not been finalized yet. Step 3 of the process, which down the road, is when they come in with an actual design plan for a specific use. For instance, phase 1 was a detention basin, phase 1A, phase 1B was a car wash. The next step is to come in with the detailed plans so we can make sure everything's right sized. The car wash has enough parking, enough landscaping. We'll do the fine grain look at it in terms of number of shrubs, sign details, things like that. But that's after we get through the general design review and the PUD agreement. Go to the next one. The PUD, when you look at the general design plan, the PUD must meet the requirements for special land use standards located within the ordinance. You do this not only for PUDs, you do this for all your special land uses. And I'm not gonna read each one, we're gonna go slowly through it. We've got each standard in front of you with some of the comments staff has seen as observations at this point. So we'll give you a second to read that. When you're ready, we'll move on to the second land use. That way the public can see the standards you follow too. Okay. That's standard one. There's standard two. If we go too fast, let us know, we'll back up for you. Yeah, go standard three. Four. There's 7 of these in total. Just the last 3?
I believe so, yeah.
Go to the next slide. If you want us back up at any time during this presentation, please ask us, we'll back up. Okay, again, this is you saw the phasing plan earlier. This is the same plan without the phasing in there. You can see that we have a main access coming in from Hall Road just to the west of the Dairy Queen. We also have another main access coming in from North Avenue that goes along, you can see bisects the site near north, but then it travels along the north side of the property as it goes from north to the dealership. Again, the car wash is that longer building closer to Hall Road. The restaurant is to your left. The detail center is the one off to the right. The rest of the areas are gonna be lower. They're gonna either be parking or landscaping. There's a dark line near the top, and it kind of bends in kind of a Z-type shape. That is where a masonry wall is required. Screening as required. One of the comments that we have to deal with as part of this general design plan is the building department does point out that we have to be careful checking if fences are on the residential property. What happens is, a little nuance of the ordinance, is if we put a wall on the property and the neighbors have a fence there already, we run into what's called a double fence situation. We have maintenance issues and things like that. So it's something we do gotta look at a little closer as we get into this general design plan. But it is something that the planning commission should discuss as part of the general design plan, how we're gonna handle that. If we're gonna move the wall a little bit, how we're gonna handle the screening or something like that. Okay. I do point out, Melissa shows that they are proposing 8-foot safety paths along Hall Road and North Avenue as required. 4 signs are showing on the property. We also point out that there's enough information to recommend approval for the general design plan. At the end of the day, the actual signs and final designs will have to be submitted to the building department to receive proper permits, so they'll go back through all these dimensions again. And if need be, if the variance is needed, they'll have to go through a variance at some point. Parking now showing up in the brownish color. Here's our comments that the entire staff has. Based on our review of the zoning ordinance, planning staff does our PUD ordinance recommend general approval or approval of the general design plan, but there are a couple of conditions we place. The assessing, it does have a comment on land division that we'll have to bring up with the applicant. Building department does point out about handicapped parking spaces. We just need to find one more. We talked about the accessible route to the detailing center that they had an issue with, and the double fencing, as I admitted. Engineering, they do have some detailed comments on the PUD agreement that need to be addressed as to deal with utility information. And fire, we would like to have more additional information on apparatus access and turning radii to make sure they can get the equipment on site. This is all these comments can be taken up at this general design plan stage. In addition to this is step 2 we're looking at for the design plan. In addition to this, there is a plan unit development agreement that has to be recommended for approval by the Planning Commission and approved by the Township Board. Staff has made notes, submitted our notes to the Mr. Loya, and Mr. Loya is going through a review of those notes and some legal requirements as of right now. So that's another component of step 2 that we don't have an answer for you tonight. Okay, and that's it for, go back to the site plan, then just put the site plan up there. Thank you. Okay, that's good. We'll leave that up for the audience to see if they have public hearing comments.
All right, thank you, guys.
Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Aloya?
I just want to comment a little bit about the process, because I know that, sometimes we need a bit of a refresher on everything. So, the development agreement is part of this process, and the final development agreement must be approved by the Township Board. I think you're aware, we did receive a draft of the PUD agreement, I believe as edited by the attorney on Tuesday afternoon last week. We've been going through staff comments, and I have comments, and frankly, it's not ready to really be sent to the board at this time for final approval recommendation. Do I think we will get there? Yes, there are components in there that are not acceptable, that will need to be removed and edited out of the agreement. More than just the form, it's the substance. There are other comments that were made by planning that we need to address with the petitioner. Given the fact that normally the PUD agreement is submitted with the application, which might have been, how long ago was the application submitted? Do you know, Mr. Skirdo?
Oh, boy. The original application was
Yeah.
probably submitted prior to me being on board, and I came on board early January 2020, and
Right, and we only
that was one of our first reviews to do.
and we received it approximately a week ago. It's really not sufficient amount of time to really work through those issues. But I also, just a couple points, the general design plan, and maybe Mr. Skirdo can clarify, I'm just looking at the ordinance. For non-residential designs, include at least the general building footprint, the street layout, the square footage of each structure, and the location and number of parking spaces. Given the fact that the parking issue needs to be addressed at this phase, would you agree? Because there's an issue that building raised with the handicap parking?
Yes.
Okay. And then the issues with the access to the detail center, because it's an access issue and it could affect the layout if it's amended, or in the fire issues, those are things that really need to be addressed at this phase, not really the final site plan.
Yes,
Would
it
you
needs to
agree
be
with that?
addressed at this phase, yes.
Okay,
correct.
all right, so at least there are three major concerns that need to be addressed at this phase at least.
And also the screening, the wall screening.
And the wall screening, so that's 4. One last thing, just as to the assessing comment, I do disagree with that assessing comment.
Okay.
And actually, Developers Council, through our discussions the last several weeks ago regarding whether or not the plat needed to be amended, did provide actual law, which I agree with, which states that if the development is going to be a condominium development, then we do not need to amend the plat for the purposes of laying out that condominium plan. So the assessor raised that issue, but I do not believe that that's an issue really that is a legitimate issue at this point. So other than that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to ask. There's one more point, I guess, and this is the process. So I think Mr. Skirdo is correct in the process. So your decision today, if you are willing to you're gonna either recommend or deny today, okay? We could also agree to postpone if the petitioner decides to do that to address the conditions. And I'm just looking at the ordinance, it states that the township board shall consider the recommendations of township staff and planning commission. So this is when it gets to the board, okay? If no comments are offered to the commission within 2 weeks of the distribution, the plan shall be placed on the next available board meeting agenda. If comments are received, the comments will be returned to the commission to be discussed and or amended by the applicant and the commission. The board shall then make a decision to approve or deny the PUD. So the way that I read this is that all these conditions or questions really need to be resolved at this phase, so that when it gets to the township board, there are no questions, and it's a clean, recommendation to approve or deny. Are these issues like insurmountable? No, I think they can be definitely worked out relatively in a short period of time. But it just needs a short period of time to be able to do that, given the time frame that we have. Okay.
So postponing is not our way of saying no, it's just a way of giving the petitioner more time.
Right, because if let's say we recommended the general, the general plan with conditions, the petitioner would still need to resolve those conditions
Right.
before the township board would vote to approve or deny. And the commission would need to resolve those really first before it goes to the board. So it really makes sense if there's outstanding issues for the petitioner to ask to postpone this. And it's also my understanding that a final site plan of the car wash was submitted today, and that may be on the next agenda as well. So it may be that the planning commission is considering both the PUD for the general plan and the PUD agreement for approval and recommendation to the board, as well as the final site plan for that car wash, all in one fell swoop, which may be efficient in the long run.
Do you think that all these items that you had mentioned can be resolved before the next planning commission meeting?
Well, certainly it's up to administration and the petitioner to work together to be able to resolve those things. I mean, it takes a partnership to do that. Is it possible? Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, sir. Is the petitioner in the audience? Is the petitioner online?
There's Mr. Ronald Poppin, it's online, and it's a phone number, I'm not sure who the phone number is, but I can see.
Okay. Are you checking? Go ahead.
Yeah, if anybody wants to speak, please raise your hand.
No. I'm looking for the petitioner is what I'm looking for. We'll open it to the public in a few minutes.
According to the phone number, I cannot tell if that's the petitioner or not.
Okay. All right. Comments from commissioners?
I have a couple comments.
Go ahead, Mr. Bentley.
And maybe these comments are added to, for the agreement. In the agreement, under 14B, it states, and maybe you can explain, either the planning department or you, Mr. Aloya, it says, as part of phase 1 construction of the development, developer agrees to provide a paved access road from North Avenue south to Hall Road. I don't understand what kind of access road goes south from North Avenue to Hall Road. Not sure there. So that's just one item, and it may be minor. On number 20, under that, there's a word, I'm not sure it is correct, but it says this development agreement, this is under the running with the land governing law. This development agreement shall run with the land constituting the property and shall be binding on and in your to the benefit of township. I don't know what in-your is.
Yeah, it's basically runs to the benefit. It grants to the benefit. It's a glorified legal term that we use. It's not incorrect, but we can certainly clean that up to make it more plain English.
Okay. Also, in the documents, there's a discrepancy between Parcel 4 and Parcel C. And I'm not sure which is correct, but it would appear that the plans show a Parcel C, never show that I can read anyway, a Parcel 4. So I would imagine that needs to be cleared up.
Which page was that?
Which number are you speaking
And
to?
where is that?
On page 10.
Which parcel were you referencing? I apologize.
Oh, I see.
Parcel A, B, and 4.
Thanks, Charlie.
It's under the legal description.
I mean, it goes through Parcel A, Parcel B, and then Parcel 4, but there's nothing on the drawings that show where Parcel 4 is. It's just a Parcel C, and this doesn't mention any Parcel C.
Very good. We're looking at, thank you. And just to clarify, so just because you tested my knowledge here, inure means come into operation or take effect, according to the dictionary. An example sentences, a release given to one or more joint contractors inures to the benefit of both. So it is it's just a complex term, and we can certainly clean it up to make it pure, plain English. Okay.
The legalese is fine if, I just thought it was a mistake. So
No, it's actually correct.
that was my ignorance on that.
It's a lawyer's term.
The handicap parking that you mentioned, one less than is required.
Yes.
I'm not sure where you find that if the parking is fully loaded, but, so that would be a concern. Again, not sure whether or not these are something that would stop an approval in the future. And then the accessible route to the detailing center. Are you talking about a vehicle route or a walking route?
You know, I am not sure that answer. I came from the building department. I'd have to find that information, what they were talking about. I don't have that detail.
Yeah, accessible route, we see that there's a vehicle.
Yeah, the vehicle there. We did have some discussion with the applicant early on, a month ago or so, about pedestrian access. From that, if you see the parking lot in front of the detail center,
Yes.
we did have some discussion with the applicant at one point about providing a dedicated pedestrian way, because that is the overflow parking for the restaurant. It could also be used for the car wash and the detailing center. But if someone was gonna access the restaurant, our preference was to see a dedicated path that pedestrians can get from their cars to the restaurant, especially crossing the main intersection there and a car wash entry.
Right, multiple drives.
So I know it was the building department comment, but I believe that's what they were intending, because we had discussed that.
Okay, so that would be primarily pedestrian
Yeah,
traffic.
primarily, yes.
In a safe.
Safe manner.
way. All right, that does make sense. I appreciate that. And that was it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else?
One quick question,
Mr. Oliver?
Mr. Scudo. Do we have the cross connection with Dairy Queen? Or we're in the process of it? It was mentioned in there, I just,
As for vehicle access?
yeah.
There was a cross connection, yes, for the Dairy Queen. There was,
It's there.
it's shown in there, there was some, question for the applicant to speak with the Dairy Queen owner, because we want to make sure we weren't taking away too much of their parking, because that cross connection does cause parking, though it's a preferred approach by the engineering department to have cross connections to a
Will it
site.
be required? If the Dairy Queen says, no, I don't want it, will it be required?
I don't know if we would require at that point. I'm not sure. I had to talk to Mr. Van Tifflin on that to see how he felt about that. So we did, and we didn't want to harm one
Sure.
We don't want to stop another development either, so we'd see how we have to work through that.
Okay. But it's not done yet.
No, that, we don't believe that, that component's done yet. I have not heard from the Dairy Queen folks unless they've conversed with the engineers, and we're not privy to that information yet, but I have not heard directly.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Oliver. Anyone else?
I have some, I think Mr. Bentley might have another one.
Go ahead, Mr. Bentley.
And Mr. Lawyer, you had mentioned it, condominium, if they choose to go the condominium route, do we know which route they're going?
Well, that's the other issue that I saw in the PUD agreement. It gave them a choice to do it or not do it, and that to me was concerning. So I think in this PUD agreement, we really need to nail that down. There's some things in here that for instance, that was not acceptable. For instance, they listed other permitted uses they could put in here, like a standalone office building or a standalone medical office or a self-storage facility, which we know is a very controversial use. But that would not be permitted in this agreement because we're approving specific uses as part of this PUD, and they're getting benefits as part of that. For instance, one of the considerations that you have to make as part of this general plan is that there's a requirement in section 10.2400B4 requiring dedicated open space area of at least 15% of the net developable area of land to be provided. Now, it can be waived, and under this provision, under this plan, it is waived. So I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do it, but that's something that you have to approve as part of this general plan. But that's a nice benefit for the developer, and so as part of that, the township gets certain approvals that they want in this development, certain aspects. Certain uses are defined and not left open, and so those are the types of things that are give and take in this PUD agreement. That's the benefit of a PUD. And there's other aspects of this. For instance, it talks about that certain site plans were approved, final site plans were approved, and we know that it's premature. We wouldn't put that in the agreement at this point. In fact, we would say that they need to submit the final site plan and that we would outline the process to do that. So, I've been in communication with his lawyer, who's actually a very good lawyer and a gentleman, and he admitted to me that he put it together and as he was trying to do his best to put it together and had really short notice to do it. But it's workable. We'll figure it out.
Thank you.
I got another question, Mr.
Go ahead, Mr. Oliver.
This quick, this is Ben. If the petitioner's not here, do we still have the power to postpone it?
Yes.
They don't have to request it?
Well, I mean, you can certainly, I will say that I know myself, and it was communicated by representatives of the township that they should postpone it, and that's what we were probably going to do, given the conditions. I believe the petitioner probably expected that was going to happen and just did not appear because of it. So we can either, you can grant or deny it today, which I don't think that's what we want to do. I think the best thing to do would be to table it today to the next meeting, and then so that the items addressed by the staff and legal counsel can be addressed by the petitioner and all involved. But
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tuckfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ben, I was actually going to go for this last, but I think you touched on a couple things that I had concerns with in the agreement, and I just want to touch back on them. Specifically 4.3, allowing them to switch back and forth between the two types seemed very problematic, as well as the variety of different things, essentially asking for a rezoning with PUD leeway, which didn't seem to be in our best interest. So I'm glad that's something you're looking at. Those were the highlights at the top of the agreement for me. So I had questions on them, but it sounds like you're on it. So just I think you're on the route I was hoping you're on. So
Thank you.
I'll leave it be. Not that you need my focus on that, but yes.
I appreciate your comment on it. It's important. Thank you.
Well, good. I would also say, just prior to some of these other comments, and Mr. Aloy, you mentioned that you and probably staff had talked to the petitioner and they were understanding that we would probably postpone. I'm a little bit sad the petitioner's not here tonight. Obviously, there is some comments. I think last time we saw the petitioner, we saw them via Slack, which is, or, pardon me, not Slack, wrong business communication device. We saw them via Zoom, and it's harder to communicate that way. So, just the petitioner, if you can express to them, hopefully next time it's in front of us, even if we do expect to postpone it. There's a lot of comments here tonight. There could be some discussion that would happen that would be perhaps beneficial for them if there was some give and take. So obviously it is a partnership, and if they don't want to waste their time, but hopefully they'll be here next time.
We will make it happen.
Very good. That said, I do have a couple of comments. I think they are appropriate at this point. If they are not appropriate, please stop me. I'll just make them as general comments. The first one is that I went back and I listened to my comments from the first hearing we had on this, and every single one of the things I had addressed, they addressed in some way in return. So just thanks to them, we've had a lot of people in here for PUDs, and sometimes we see everything get ignored, and sometimes we don't. And whether I agreed with what they did or not, it was obvious that they went back and they took the comments and they tried to address them. So I really appreciate that, and that's good. And specifically, stacking with the car wash, which I think was a staff issue at the time, some of the way the drives were going through, some of the, specifically I was concerned about the parking on the north side of the restaurant parcel. They very clearly put, areas for the pedestrians to go across, so I really appreciate that. I did have two concerns. One of them I did bring up last time, and I still have this concern. I know the staff mentioned during their review that there is sufficient screening on the north side of the parcel behind the car wash, and I believe that would be sufficient to our code. But relative to what Mr. Aloya was saying in this particular case, there's a give and take here, and in that spirit, I would say with the two uses butting up to that wall, that's about the last place I would want only a wall and not wall and landscaping. You have the vacuum cleaners, which I believe, although I don't remember, that they gave themselves a time of 7 to 7, so potentially they could be very early. Those can be very high-pitched, they can be very noisy, and it could be negative for those couple of houses there. And then also, we don't have all the details on the two-story restaurant, but there is dining in the rear and potentially dining on the second story. And it could, I'm not saying it would, but it could produce a sound corridor toward those houses. So I would just say that I would underline my comments from the first time that while they may not be required to, I would think that some of the give and take, if we can see a little bit more effort at specifically shielding sound there, would be something I'd be happy to see. I can see they put some landscaping on the island between the stacking for the car wash and the wall. There might be other things that they could do. I don't want to tell them what they could do, but we have seen other devices used when you were trying to go up next to residential and buffer sound. I don't know if the plan is still there, but I know when we saw the fast food restaurant at 23 and Card, the developer owner there did a lot of work with sound buffering next to the fast food window. I think he put up like a wavy something that bounced sound. So I would just say for me, I don't know if it's for the rest of the commission, I'd hope they do a little more work with sound there. I think not only is it good faith effort toward the neighbors, specifically those uses, I think are more noisy than other uses, and potentially noisy in times when you don't want them to be noisy, not just late morning or early afternoon. So that's one thing. The second thing that I had a comment on, and I should have actually gone out and walked this, but I didn't. The existing office that's kind of in the middle of this, they actually came in for a variance 7 years ago, and their land sign is it's in a strange place for the way we put them. I think they put it outside of their normal area and rotated a different direction. I don't remember, it's been long enough. But my concern is that it's very close to where the sign on the corner of North Avenue and Hall Road is for this development. And so just to highlight that, particularly to staff, take a look at it. I haven't gone and looked at where it was, but I would have concerns that the two signs would conflict in some way. They'd be right on top of each other, and especially since that the insurance company's sign is in such a strange place, even to our normal ordinance. So that was a concern to me. And then the last thing, and I think this is parallel to what the building department was talking about, but there seems to be a lot of reliance on Parcel B parking for the restaurant, or there is reliance. It's called out as restaurant parking. It's a long way through the development. There is signs there. But particularly with, it looks like we might have to move parking around and we have the handicap parking spot, I guess I would be cautious on whatever the next step is with working the handicap parking spot in, that we don't just push more spots over to that area of the lot where they're gonna have to go across a major throughput of the development and across the car wash and then across another operating lane. So, yeah, I think that was all my comments. I would reiterate what I said the first time. I think the development as a whole is good for the township. I like it. Sounds like Mr. Loya and Mr. Skirdo and Ms. Calnazia are on path for getting this all set, and so I'm in favor of postponing it, but comments aside, I think it's a good development, and I hope we are able to move forward with it and have it come out as a benefit for everyone. So, that's all my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tuckfield. Is there anyone else? Okay, at this time, I'd like a motion to open it to the public.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Oliver,
Support.
supported by Mr. Tuckfield. All in favor?
Aye.
And we're opening the public portion at 7:30 PM. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Come on up to the podium, give us your name and address.
Hi, my name's Tom Narink. I live 23120 Urban Street. I'm the first house right there in the corner of the parking lot and the restaurant. And just, you know, I know it's commercial property and always has been there, but I'm just worrying about that parking lot next to my house and then the restaurant, double story, right behind me. And the noise, like he was saying. It's already very noisy there. So, you know, I'd rather see the condos, I guess I'd like to say. I know you guys are all for the restaurant and the car wash and all the detail. You have a car wash already across the street on the other corner in Clinton Township, a new one. They just built one next to Walmart there. So which one's gonna be empty first? And then you got a strip mall there you built. There's no one in it yet. So I just wonder, you know, what's gonna happen with this restaurant? You say it's a restaurant, we all know here it's gonna be a bar, right? Eventually, they're gonna apply for a liquor license. That means that's gonna be open till 2 in the morning, and I'm gonna be right there. So, you're taking away a lot from me, and everyone really along that resident there. And I know you don't care, but I just wanted to say what I wanted to say. And there's drainage there, you know, that's another issue. It's an open ditch where I'm at that runs right down Urban. What's gonna happen there? Are they gonna have an entrance out to Urban from the parking lot?
No,
No?
no, it doesn't show one.
Is there a wall along Urban?
I don't, yes.
And it looks like they show a wall on my property on both sides. Is that what it's gonna be?
Yes.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't have much power here, but I just hope you all look at that stuff, because I've been there for 40-some years, and I'd like to stay there till I die.
We do care. Thank you, sir. And thank you for your comments. Okay. Anyone else like to speak? All right, then at this time, 7:33, I'd like a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Shudo,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Spatafora. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, do we have a motion on this item? Anybody like to make a motion?
Before a motion is made, just a question to Mr. Aloya. With the comments that were made by the commissioners and our planners, and your own comments, the fact that this PUD agreement, the contracted agreement of what is spelled out and intended to be developed, will you furnish us with like a red line comment as far as the changes from what we have in our packet now as to what is proposed. I mean, with your recommendations and all the other comments from the departments into such a draft copy that we can see.
I can do that. I can provide you with what's called a red line version, which shows the edits, and then I can give you a clean version, which shows the final agreement that we were proposing. If that's what you want, that's not a problem.
I would look for that because there's further work, obviously, that has to be done. There's further conditions and 4 major items of concern, I think, that were mentioned that, you know, at least if we see what they are with the petitioner, hopefully we'll come back the next time where we could maybe, you know, question him, seeing more things tangible, you know, in the documents, and get closer toward, you know, the desired action that the planning commission would like to take, recommend.
Absolutely.
Okay. We have a motion. Anyone?
Well, if there's no further discussion, I would like to go ahead and make a motion to postpone the consideration of granting the, excuse me, I'm sorry, the Plan Unit Development General Design Plan to allow our departments, our legal counsel, to bring back and review with the further changes as we have all discussed this evening. So I think the Planning Commission could be better informed to consider this thing to consider this particular PUD in full.
Okay. Motion to postpone.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Oliver. Mr. Bentley, please call the roll.
Okay.
Mr. Spatafora?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, yes. Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Tuckfield?
Yes.
Mr. Provenzano? Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake. Mr. Shudo?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. All right, let's move on to old business. Mr. Skirdo, do you have any old business for us tonight?
No, I don't.
No, nothing?
There's a lot of new things, but I don't have any old business.
All right. Public comments on non-agenda items. Is there anyone that would like to speak? I don't believe so. All right, commissioners' comments. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I did have a couple things if I could. This is going to be, I think, a little bit, one of them is a little bit in advance of Zba Liaison, but I think I'll tackle it here briefly. As the planning staff may know, I talked to Josh briefly today. I didn't realize it was still his day off, but he indicated you may have. I heard a lot about the proposed Meyer development today. I believe the variance requests went out and hit people's mailboxes, and there was a lot of energetic discussion about them today. Just really briefly, I got a lot of questions because it was going to CBA, and I sit on CBA, and people know this, about what the development was, what were they doing, what are they asking for, and I did not answer them, and nor would I typically until I see that. But could you give us a brief update on where that development might be and the steps directly in front of them that might have to go forward in the near future?
Yeah, first and foremost, the development is a Myers, but it's not it's a what we term a food store Myers. It's 90,000 square feet. Typical Myers run anywhere from 150,000 to 175,000 square feet. So it's a half Myers with only food only. They do need 2 sign exceptions, one for the size of the sign as well as one for a number of signs. Since they have frontages on both North Hayes and 24, they're only allowed to have 1 sign, but they need 1 for each sign, so they're in front of you for that. In terms of variances, there is a building height, not number of stories, but in terms of building height, they would like to go taller than what the ordinance allows. Also, there is a variance for parking based on, as you can imagine, based on recent years' shopping habits, a lot of curbside parking is used now as opposed to standard parking spaces. So in lieu of meeting a lot of the parking, they've have an enlarged area screened in behind the building for dedicated curbside parking. That's why they're coming in front of you. After that, we fully expect, we're not definite yet, but we fully expect the planning commission to see the site plan on the 20th of July. Is that the correct?
Yeah, that's the
It's the
tentative
correct
date.
tentative date right now is the 20th of July to come in for full site plan.
So to verify, they're not looking for a rezoning at this point. The property
No.
is appropriately zoned for the type of use that they're asking.
Correct.
They have some variance requests based on their anticipated site plan, and then the site plan would come in front of the planning commission to see if it meets with our ordinances and requirements for said site plan.
Correct.
Okay. And you would, you think the site plan tentatively is gonna be the second week of, or pardon me, second meeting of July?
Tentatively, we're looking at July 20th, which
Okay.
is the second.
Very good. And I appreciate it. There's a lot of, just a lot of discussion on it. I wasn't really sure what was going on, and I try not to answer these things for obvious reasons, but I want to make sure that it was kind of put out there tonight. Second thing, I just wanted to say, I was able to read through the draft master plan. It's obviously just the framework for some portions of it, but I really appreciate you guys sending it through. I read through it twice, but I just was absorbing it. I haven't really put down too many notes. Are you guys looking for any comments if we have any at this point? If we have any, would you want them via email? Would you want us to bring them up at the meeting? How would you like to proceed
You
with
could,
that?
comments are always welcome before getting too far down the road. If we can address things ahead of time, we can do it. If we feel it can be a bigger discussion item for the whole commission, we'll bring that back as a discussion item.
Okay.
We can accept anyway. If someone wants to print out the copy of the plan, make hand notes on it and hand it to us, that's fine. If you want to send us an email, that's fine. Whatever is convenient for you, we'll make it work.
Okay. Like I said, I read through it. I don't have all my comments down yet.
Sure.
I probably will try to do that this coming weekend. You'll probably see some correspondence from me on that.
And we appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys putting up with listening to all of them. I think that was it. I had one other thing, but I think it got answered earlier, and so I will leave it be. And I appreciate you guys helping us along tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tuckfield. Are there any other commissioner comments? Anyone? Then we will move to the Macomb Township Board of Trustees Liaisons update. Mr. Oliver.
All right, update. Couple things. The township board is, we went out to bid for our auditing company. We've had Plan Rand for years. And we decided to put it out to bid, and they still won a bid to the presenters. They're gonna give us a 3-year auditing for the township, so they will continue to be our auditors. That's the one thing. The other thing is that the board finalized the budget, and a lot of people worked hard on that. It's a balanced budget. So the money we take in, we spend, and we're able to keep a little, okay? And it don't sound like a lot, but we ended up giving the residents a 4% reduction in their taxes. And again, it don't sound like a lot of money. It maybe it's $50 a house. But the bigger thing is, in lieu of what Mr. Acabelli said, supplies are very hard to get. Inflation's starting to really ramp up, and we were able to still keep a balanced budget and actually reduce our cost by 4%. So I really think they all did a really good job doing that. So that's about it.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Huh?
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone's happy for an extra few dollars in their reduction. Not many communities could say that. Oh, and just for the boards and the public's information, Macomb Township is the cheapest rated. We have the lowest taxes in the whole county. with the services we provide.
Right.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, Charlie, can you share?
Can't answer questions.
Okay. What the general fund budget is that was approved approximately?
I can't remember that.
Okay.
I got it all, but, you know, that's something that, it's online, that we
Yeah,
put it
I'll have
all
to check.
online for the people. But the township is, healthy. And, I think we got great leadership now, and, I think we're doing good.
Great.
Full-time people are doing great, and they were really the catalysts, along with the, all the other departments. Our finance department worked extremely hard, and all the other departments worked extremely hard to help with the budget. So it was a total joint effort. Everyone got involved in it. And the result was good. It was very good. We was
And you
able to come up
reduce
with a nice
costs.
budget.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That is awesome.
And that's it.
Okay. ZBA liaison, Mr. Tuckfield.
Mr. Hardy, I have nothing to report with the exception of, it sounds like we're gonna have a long ZBA meeting in a couple weeks. And, we'll let you know how it goes. It'll probably be a preamble for our later meeting in July.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Okay, planning department items?
I went through quite a bit already. We got between Maddox, the Myers, and the master plan that's really been keeping us hopping. As you can imagine, a lot of counter work and other items on a daily basis we have to take care of. So
Okay,
there's always something in the works.
all right, sir, thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Oliver,
Support.
supported by Mr. Tuckfield. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.